to AD. AC is congruent to AD. They were nice. They already added those marks. AC and AD. AC, AD. Oh, so they forgot to write the word given. That's an easy one. And CB is congruent to DB. CB is congruent to DB. That's nice too. They added those marks for us. Now, they said something in our picture is reflexive. So I'm noticing that that's this side, AB, has to be congruent to AB. Now, look, it says the two have to be equal, and these are my choices, right? If the two are congruent, those are my congruence theorems. So the order of my evidence looks like side, 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 side. So side, 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 triangle, congruence. Now, what comes afterward is always CPCTC. They picked one of the parts. So they're picking angle A and angle A. So it must, yeah, that makes sense. They're saying this angle, just put one necklace because I guess I don't have any other necklaces going on in the picture. This angle, CAB, matches this angle, DAB. Well, that should make sense. It looks like this line, AB, did bisect that angle, because if that line cut that in half, the angle on the top should match the angle on the bottom. That's just always after the word bisects, we want to address the definition of bisects. Definition of bisector. And technically we bisected an angle, so that'd be a little bit more accurate. Again, how did I know that? Right off of my notes. When I see the word bisect in a given statement or in any of my steps, I have to address that word, and this picture looks just like the picture over here when I look at just that front part. Next one. PQ is congruent to RQ. PQ, RQ, mark, mark, because this is a mark and that's a mark. And angle PQS, so that's happening at Q, PQS is congruent to RQS. So both angles are happening at Q, one's on the left, one's on the right. So this was information they gave us, and so they filled that in. Now they're talking about reflexive, so we know QS, that's touching sides, is reflective. QS must be congruent to QS. And now they said we have enough evidence, and our evidence spells side angle side, triangle congruence. Okay, side angle side, side angle side. Yep, they're right. So now I just want to name these, the triangle on the left, PQS is the triangle, and the triangle on the right, I can name it, I got to stick with the same order, RQS. And what comes next? It's always this CPCTC. So this must be a corresponding part, just double checking. Angle P was mentioned first, so that should match angle R. Awesome. Now let's keep going. Here's a triangle, and this one matches what we did at the beginning of class. If the base angles are equal, the sides are equal. So just make sure you flip it on the base. So that would mean 10 has to equal x, and I've solved for x. Now, if the two sides are equal, again, flip it on its base. If the two sides are equal, the bases are equal. So that has to be x, and this has to be x. We also know all the angles of a triangle have to add up to 180. So combining those terms, we get x has to be 55. Next question. Flip it on its base, because they're talking about these two sides. On its base, the two base angles are equal, so the two sides have to be equal. X plus 20 has to equal 11. So I get x is equal to minus or negative 9. That's concerning to some kids. They're like, ooh, did I do something wrong? So plug that back in. Look, negative 9 plus 20 is 11. And that's exactly what we needed. We needed 11 to equal 11, so this is exactly what we were looking for. Next, flip him on his base. So I notice they're talking about these two triangles. So if I flip it on its base, I know since these two sides are equal, these two base angles are equal. So if that's 60, this has to be 60. And in fact, I think this is an equilateral triangle. But so this is the expression for angle 2. So I know if two sides are equal, the base angles are equal. So this base angle we know is 60, and we can set it equal to that. Okay, so I'm having trouble reading that after I put my circle through it. So I'm going to guess that says a 3x. I apologize if I'm wrong. And that's supposed to equal 60. So I'm going to subtract 15 on both sides. 45. Divide by 3. Okay. X is 15, if I read that right. Now looking, it says angle 2 is this expression, 5x minus 2. And I can't really read this. I think that says 77 degrees. Okay, so anytime a picture gets too small, just redraw the picture bigger. That's the beauty of geometry. I'm thinking this says 77. And look how the two sides are equal, so this other side has to be 77. That means I can figure out this angle right here. If those two are 77, right, then 180 minus 154, which is those two added, is 26. So we know this has to be 26. And now we know those two angles here have to add up to 90. So if this is in fact 90 degrees, then this would have to be 64. Now, and this has to do with the questions we worked on. Now, if I know that's 64, these two sides are equal, so these two base angles have to be equal. Okay, so that's 64. I'm not sure what this has to be, so I can call that y. What two angles, which I know have to be equal, added with 64 would add up to 180. So 2y plus 64 equaling 180. Okay, so I get 2y is equal to 116. So when I divide by 2, I get y has to be 58. Okay, so this has to be 58, and this has to be 58. So the measure of angle 2 has to equal 58. Now I finally have my equation here. So 5x minus 2 has to equal 58. Let's do it. Finally, we get our answer. I get 5x has to equal 60. And so x has to be 12. Awesome. Next one. I see a big isosceles triangle. If these two sides are equal, these base angles are equal. I also know that I see reflexive here. So I actually know, because a side angle side, side angle side, or maybe even angle side angle, angle side angle, I know that these are congruent triangles, the one on the right and the left. And so that means that their corresponding parts are congruent. So this bottom corresponds to that one. So I know x has to equal x plus 16. And so I get x is negative 8. Oh, now that makes people feel weird. So just plug that back in. If I get negative 8 plus 16, I get 8. So actually I like that answer because I know this is 8 and I know that has to be 8. Okay, just one more toughie left and we're finally to the hinge theorem. So here's my isosceles triangle, and this is going to work out just like my last one. We're sharing the middle sides. They gave me these angles are equal. So because of side angle side, side angle side, we know these two triangles are congruent. So we also know their parts. This part at the bottom would have to match the other bottom. Okay, so now just setting those two equal to each other. We get 12. Sweet. And again, you can plug this back in, and I get 24 minus 13 is 11. So I know I did it right. Now the last few should go pretty quick because most classes we did these together. So I'll just share one more time. This angle 111 is surrounded by sides 7 and 9. This one, angle Y, is included by 7 and 9. So we know if the hinge is here, this hinge opened wider. So we know that that side has to be bigger. Side XC has to be bigger than AC. Now let's compare these angles. So I'm looking for two common ones. Yeah, so I have the number 8 and the number 6. Now in this triangle, I have the number 8 and the number 6. So since those two sides are including this angle, I can compare this. So that's a number 3. I know this one has to be smaller, and that one would have to be bigger. This angle would have to be bigger because 4 is bigger than 3. So ordering them, I could say that the measure of angle SRT, that one has to be bigger. So I'm going to put bigger. And when I compare it to angle QRT, that's my answer. Last one. We have to find two equal sides. So I see that both triangles share this side, so whatever that is, and the number 8. So this is my hinge. And this is the same length, whatever that number is, and the number 8. So this is my hinge. Now on this side, the angle is 90, and this side, the angle is 70. So we know the opposite side here would be longer. And this one would be shorter because 70 is less than 90. So when I'm comparing KL to KN, we know that KL is longer. Thanks for joining us.